You've seen the headlines and the comments, the ones claiming some shocking DNA test result for Brittney Griner is rocking the WNBA. But that story isn't just old, it's false. It was debunked by Newsweek and PolitiFact as far back as August 2022, based on fabricated screenshots. The expectation is that the biggest Griner controversy is a wild, unproven conspiracy. The reality is that the real Griner controversy, the one with actual receipts, is one the league doesn't want to talk about. It's not about DNA, it's about data. The common belief is that Brittney Griner's selection as a 2023 WNBA All-Star starter was the heroic peak of her comeback story, a decision celebrated by everyone. The contrarian take, the one backed by the league's own voting documents and advanced metrics, is that it was a manufactured moment. It was a marketing decision that came at the direct expense of a more deserving player, exposing a broken system that values narrative over on-court production. This wasn't a celebration of the best. It was the coronation of the most famous. Today, we are opening the books on this. We're not using rumors. We're using the WNBA's own press releases, the official voting data, and the advanced stats from her Hoop Stats to answer the three questions the league hoped you'd stop asking. First, what was the common belief about her selection versus the statistical reality? Second, how did the league's own voting math, the 50-25-25 split, create this outcome? And third, why does this prove the WNBA was willing to sacrifice competitive integrity for its biggest marketing narrative? Let's start with the math the league used to justify the selection. The expectation is that an all-star starter is chosen by a fair and balanced vote. The reality is that the WNBA system is specifically designed to let narrative overwhelm performance. Here's the receipt. The WNBA's All-Star starter voting, confirmed in their press release from June 7, 2023, is weighted on a 50-25-25 split. Fans get 50% of the vote. Active WNBA players get 25%. And a select panel of sports reporters and broadcasters gets the final 25%. This system is fundamentally different from the NBA's, and that difference is everything. The NBA, facing its own popularity contest problems, weighted fan voting at 50%, but media and players also got 50%, creating a balance. The WNBA actively chooses to give fans, the group most influenced by marketing and name recognition, double the power of the players and media combined. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's a lever the league pulls to ensure its most marketable stars, regardless of their current year performance, get the spotlight. Why does this matter? Because in 2023, the league had one story it needed to sell above all others: the return of Brittney Griner. She was the single biggest mainstream news story the WNBA had. Getting her into that all-star starting lineup wasn't just a bonus, it was a marketing imperative. The league needed that visual, that press conference, that ovation. And the 50-25-25 system was the tool they used to guarantee it, even when the players and media, the people who actually watch all the games, disagreed. The voting system was the perfect cover. It allowed the league to say, the fans have spoken, while knowing the fans were voting on a story, not a stat line. This setup was the mechanism that made the snub of a more deserving player not just possible, but inevitable. And that snub is the most shocking part of this story. The most damning receipt in this entire saga isn't a leaked memo, it's the official box score. The expectation is that Brittney Griner must have been playing at a superstar level to earn a starting spot. The reality is that, at the time the votes were cast, Indiana Fever rookie Aliyah Boston was statistically superior in almost every meaningful category. And it wasn't even close. Let's look at the tail of the tape using data from her Hoop Stats heading into the All-Star announcement on June 25, 2023. Brittney Griner on a struggling 2-10 Phoenix Mercury team was averaging 19.1 points and 6.4 rebounds. Those are Britt's scoring numbers, but the advanced stats told the real story. Her player efficiency rating, or PER, was 21.9. Her total win shares, a measure of how much a player contributes to winning, was a mediocre 1.1. Most importantly, her on-court, off-court net rating was a staggering negative 8.3. The Mercury were significantly worse when she was on the floor. Now, let's look at Aliyah Boston, the #1 overall pick. On a surprising 5-7 Indiana Fever team, Boston was averaging 15.6 points and 8.1 rebounds, but her efficiency was historic. She was shooting 61.8% from the field, the second best mark in the entire league. Her PER was a dominant 26.1, blowing Griner's out of the water. Her total win shares was 3.0, nearly triple Griner's, and her on-court, off-court net rating was a massively positive plus 11.2. The Fever, a team that was 5-31 the year before, was suddenly competitive, and Aliyah Boston was the entire reason why. Boston was making her team win. Griner was putting up numbers on a team that was losing. The experts saw this. The players saw this. We know this because of the other receipt, the WNBA's own final voting breakdown released on July 2nd, 2023. This is where the story gets ugly. Among the expert media panel, Aliyah Boston finished 3rd in the front court. Griner finished 6th. Among the WNBA players, Boston finished 3rd. Griner finished 6th. Both groups, the ones who get paid to analyze the game and the ones who play it, concluded that Boston was a starter and Griner wasn't even close. But then came the fan vote. Fueled by the powerful comeback narrative, Griner finished 3rd in the fan vote. Boston finished 4th. Because that fan vote counted for 50%, it completely washed out the expert consensus. The math tipped the scale and Griner was named the starter. The system worked exactly as it was designed, to elevate the biggest story over the best player. Aliyah Boston was relegated to a reserve role, an injustice that exposed the league's priorities. They chose their poster child over their best rookie, and they used the fans as the justification. So, what was the motive? Why would the league and their media partners stay so quiet about such an obvious statistical snub? The expectation is that the league wants to promote its best talent. The reality is that in 2023, the league needed to promote its biggest story. And the biggest story wasn't a rookie in Indiana. It was the geopolitical return of Brittney Griner. This wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a business and public relations strategy. Think about the timing. Griner's return from Russian detention was a global news event. She was on the cover of magazines. She was meeting politicians. She was the face of a movement. For the WNBA, this was a level of mainstream crossover attention they had never seen before. The 2023 All-Star Game in Las Vegas was the first and biggest platform for the league to capitalize on that attention. They needed Brittney Griner in a starting jersey under the brightest lights, giving that emotional interview. It was the centerpiece of their entire season-long marketing campaign. An Aliyah Boston starting spot would have been a nice story for basketball nerds. A Brittney Griner starting spot was a story for Good Morning America. The league and their broadcast partners at ESPN had a vested interest in the narrative. Admitting that Griner's selection was undeserved would be admitting their prized asset wasn't, at that moment, an elite player. It would undermine the very story they were trying to sell. So, the system was allowed to work, the fans were blamed, and the media who had voted Boston 3rd quietly wrote their articles about Boston being a reserve, never fully highlighting the mathematical injustice that kept her from starting. This created the ultimate disconnect. The league got to celebrate Griner's return, a moment everyone, to be clear, was happy to see. But they did it by sacrificing the integrity of the All-Star selection itself. They sent a clear message to players like Aliyah Boston. Your on-court production, your efficiency, your ability to make a team win is less important than another player's off-court fame. It was a power move disguised as a feel-good story, and it proved that when marketing and merit collide, the WNBA will choose marketing every single time. This isn't just a one-time problem. This is a crack in the foundation. The expectation is that an all-star selection is the ultimate validation of a player's greatness. The reality is that the WNBA's voting system is a flaw that the league chooses not to fix. They know the 50-25-25 split is broken. They know it favors popularity over production. The NBA saw a similar, though not as extreme, issue with Zaza Pachulia almost becoming an all-star starter, and they adjusted their formula. The WNBA has not. Why? Because the league benefits from the ambiguity. They can point to the fan vote as a sign of engagement, using it as a metric to show advertisers and broadcaster partners that their stars are popular. It allows them to have it both ways. They get the marketing bump from a big name like Griner starting, but they can also avoid direct criticism by blaming the fan vote. It's a shield. The media and players, who only get 25% each, don't have enough power to correct the imbalance. This system has long-term consequences. It tells a player like Aliyah Boston that her historic rookie efficiency doesn't matter as much as another player's Q rating. It erodes the trust between the players and the league, as they see their own votes, their expert opinion, rendered meaningless by a popularity contest. And it ultimately damages the credibility of the All-Star game itself. If it's not a showcase for the best players, what is it? It's just a marketing event, an exhibition. And that's exactly what the 2023 All-Star selection became: a powerful, emotional, and statistically fraudulent marketing event. So let's summarize. You've seen the fake debunked rumors about Brittney Griner, but the real scandal, the one buried in the league's own spreadsheets, is that her 2023 All-Star starting spot was a mathematical fiction. The common belief was that it was a well-deserved comeback. The reality is that the league's 50-25-25 voting system was built to allow exactly this, for a massive narrative-driven fan vote to completely overrule the media and players, who both agreed Aliyah Boston was the more deserving starter. The league prioritized the multi-million-dollar marketing narrative of Griner's return over the on-court statistical proven dominance of a rookie who was changing her franchise. They needed the story more than they needed the truth. The final reinforcement is this: when you want to understand why a league makes a decision, don't just listen to the press conference. Follow the numbers, follow the voting percentages, follow the advanced stats, and follow the marketing dollars. The real story is always in the receipts. And if you want to understand the other hidden mechanisms GMs and leagues use to control players, from contract clauses to media plans, the next logical step is our Locker Room Confidential playlist. It's the playbook for how power really works in professional sports. Click that now.